Fighting is a parallel of life. Do you want to walk through life knowing that your hands are a weapon of war and you can surely make shit happen if it comes down to it? I'm sure you do. And I want to explain how being fit and knowing how to fight is crucial to success. It's just like investing into your self defense. It's the best form of life insurance that there is. It's very important. I think many of you already know this, but being able to physically fit is only going to come with extreme discipline. You're doing something that you may not want to do, which will help you in the long run. But again, I think most people are aware of this. This is going to be more geared towards what you should learn and what you should not learn and what you should start doing in terms of fighting itself, not some motivation video or discipline skills, other things like that in my other videos. So you should be looking at a striking or a grappling sport. Both have their pros and their cons. Striking, of course, helps you in your stand-up game. I'd recommend boxing or kickboxing if you're in the U.S. They're decent to learn. They're just most commonly found here is boxing and kickboxing when it comes to striking. It doesn't take a rocket scientist either to realize how effective kickboxing can be in the real world. Just go look at a UFC fight, right? Next, you have grappling. It's going to help you in a fight. Inevitably gets on the ground. Again, most commonly in the U.S. The most common is going to be wrestling and jiu-jitsu. I recommend you learn jiu-jitsu just because here in the U.S. it's hard to find a gym that's dedicated to wrestling. That's more like a high school or a college thing, but jiu-jitsu is just a bit easier to find and more practical just due to this aspect alone. I'm also a fan of judo. It's very underrated martial art because it teaches you how to throw people on the freaking ground, which is very underrated. But be careful with this stuff, though. For example, wrestlers, in my opinion, are the best at takedowns, but they do this stuff on mats. Imagine going for a double leg takedown as a wrestler and you slam your knee pads into the mat to get at your opponent, right? Now, imagine this with just jeans on and you're on the concrete outside. Yeah, you might bust your knee wide open. The cons with jujitsu, for example, could be that it's weaker in striking, so your punches better count, and the learning curve is quite high. A downside of kickboxing is that it offers no ground game, so if you get on the ground because your opponent tackled you, then you're kind of cooked. So it's also hard on the body and cardio intensive. So if you're older, this may not be for you. Do your research when it comes to a fighting style. It doesn't really matter that much what you pick as long as you're doing something if you don't know anything at all. Now, I'm going to wrestle some jimmies here, but I recommend you don't learn a couple of fighting styles. People see these and they go, wow, that's so badass. I want to learn this, but don't. The first one is Krav Maga. Krav Maga, whatever. This is marketed as some sort of like super self-defense tactic style, but to me, it's quite useless. Krav Maga is only useful if you're superhumanly fit, you train diligently, and you're hyper violent. A lot of Eastern European countries take fighting a lot more serious than we do in the army, anyways. Krav Maga, it can be useful, but here in the U.S., it's kind of a joke to me. Next joke of a fighting style is any taekwondo, aikido, or any shit you'd find in a mall. I mean, yes, you can learn stuff here. Very great UFC fighters also started here, like George St. Pierre, but a lot of the stuff they teach you is not going to work well, like forearm punch blocks. Do you see that in the UFC? No, not really. It's just not that practical. If you have seen that, though, just know that's quite rare. Next, let's move on to pointy objects, aka knives. I highly recommend you just run away from a knife fight rather than engaging, as the person who bleeds out first, they're the loser, and the person who bleeds out after is the winner. It's just not good, but anyways, I took a knife fighting class, and this is my biggest takeaway. Just run away. If you must fight with a knife, though, just do a very quick slashing motions. I don't listen to pro knife fighters on here because amateurs everywhere in ghettos around the world drop people with knives, and they aren't exactly training for this. And I don't think you really need to train that much on knives anyways. If you live in the U.S., I'd recommend you just train with a firearm instead, as that's a lot more efficient. But you can get by with a lot less knife training compared to, say, fighting or guns. Regardless, I still think knives are underrated, and they can do drastic damage. And I recommend carrying a pocket knife with a button-activated push to swing it open. I carry a 4-inch Microtech pocket knife. It's a half-serrated, half-sharp edge. It's definitely a utility tool, like opening boxes and stuff like that, or a package I can't seem to open. but I could use it to defend myself if I desperately needed to and didn't have my gun on me, which I do anyways, 99.9% of the time. But again, I recommend taking a class, maybe two if you just enjoy it, but becoming a knife ninja is just not worth it to me personally. As again, like I said before, a firearm's just truly way more efficient. I will say though, a grappling sport can be more effective against a knife compared to a striker. Which guy to you has more of a chance against a knife? A guy who can put someone in an armbar or a guy who's going to square up and box against a knife? I'll let you be the judge of that. Next, now, to my favorite style of self defense, the great equalizer, firearms. Boxing and all that is great on its own, but it stands no chance to a 9mm or a 357 Magnum. Straight up. Pistols are your friend because you can conceal it. Find out how to acquire a concealed carry permit in your state or your country if you're not in the US, and just get it done. If the world turns sour and you don't care about getting a concealed carry permit, you do you, but just know that strapping a rifle on your back isn't the way to go most of the time, so conceal carry a pistol. Now, what if you live somewhere where it's very hard to legally conceal carry because the government there is just awful? I'm not advocating for you to break any laws, but for me personally, I would just do it anyways. Again, this is my own thoughts and beliefs, but safety is of utmost importance to me, so yeah. What people don't know doesn't hurt them. Next, let's move on to firearm training. If you are a total rookie to shooting, I'd recommend you take a shooting class at an indoor firing range, something like that. That is probably the only time I'd ever recommend someone to take these classes, because in my experience, the instructors just aren't good at shooting. But they will teach you how to switch your pistol on and off from safe if it has a safety on it, external safety. All pistols have safeties. Some are internal and some are external. But anyways, unloading a magazine, chambering a round, and safety, which is what you need to know anyways. They'll be able to teach you that. Basic pistol course can be anywhere from like $100 to $150. This depends where you live. Probably around $25 to $50 in ammo. Do the math first. See how much it'll run you. As for pistol selection itself, you really can't go wrong with most of the big brands out there like Glock, Sig, Ruger, Springfield. I'm not going to really get into gun selection because that's a whole different video. But I will say in regards to that is that I carry a Glock 19 or a Glock 43. The meta right now, so to speak, is semi-automatic pistols. Just get one of those if you're not sure. I wouldn't recommend a wheel gun to a new person. They do have their pros, though. I love revolvers, too, but you're still not done yet once you get the gun. Welcome to the money pit of being a gun nut. Now you're going to need a holster and a belt. So I use a Blue Alpha Gear for my belts. And for a holster, I use a Vedder holster. It's Vedder. Not affiliated with them or anything. That's just what I carry. I carry a holster. My holsters have claws and wedges. Just Google those to see what they look like. But for me, it affords the most concealability. Just know that with an improper holster and belt setup, you're going to be printing a lot if that matters to you. Sometimes it just doesn't. But for free training, I recommend doing dry fire. But playing with guns means you need to be safe. Many holes in walls and holes in mirrors have appeared because a gun wasn't properly cleared. But anyways, dry fire can help you with trigger control, reducing recoil impulse, which is recoil impulse is the instinctive dip you'll make after pulling the trigger. You're anticipating recoil. It can help get that out of you. And for drawing your pistol from your holster quickly, this can also be done with dry fire. Get some snap caps for reload drills, and you're even more golden. The best part about dry fire is that it's free. And USPSA shooters, they all dry fire. The best of the best, they dry fire every single day. I have a membership at a private range. This is where I'll do my training at, but nowadays I don't shoot as much just due to financial factors. Ammo's stupid expensive, and once I get going at the range, next thing I know, I expended 1,000 rounds, and that's like $250, $300. Not good. But this is why I love dry fire, though. I now only shoot like 100 to 200 rounds a range session, and you can definitely stretch out 100 rounds by doing drills that only shoot 1 or 2 rounds. Go check out T-Rex Arms on YouTube if you want an idea of what to do drill-wise. But people are going to get their jimmies rustled yet again by this one. But airsoft is a great tool for training, and I stand by that statement. I will give you one singular example of why I say this. Back in 2004, a Japanese kid wanted to come to America and shoot the Steel Challenge. And in Japan, only the Yakuza has pistols, and these are in short supply. There's no gun culture in Japan. Steel Challenge is held in California. It's a marksmanship test, TLDR. This guy only trained with airsoft his whole life, and he came and won the match anyways. He was just that used to getting trigger time. Case in point, right there. More pros and cons can be found on Google. Just for the sake of the video, I won't get into it, but airsoft can definitely be a viable training tool. It's not a replacement to live fire, but it's a great aid nonetheless. Another Jimmy Rustler here, but I tend to avoid training from cops. I don't have nothing against cops. It's just the majority of them can't actually shoot, which is crazy when someone hears that. They don't know any better, but it's a common misconception that people think cops actually can shoot. No offense to the ones that can, of course, but most of them simply aren't that proficient besides an annual pistol qualification test that Helen Keller can pass. He's blind and deaf. Ideally, I'd get training from a special operations guy, former one. If there is any near you, if there isn't any, just get what you can get, but build up the skills on your own. Just be careful with former SF guys. There can be fakers out there and whatnot. Look up their portfolio online if you can. Moving on, for home defense, I will always recommend an AR-15 with a white light on it. Simple as that. It's more ideal than a 12 gauge with double op buck in it, just due to over penetration. An AR-15 is also more wieldy. Buckshot's going to do way more damage through dry walls and spread more for damaging other stuff. Having a white light on your pistol and your AR-15, it's not really a choice either. It's mandatory. You need to be able to positively identify your target before you start blasting. It's called PID. What if it's 3 a.m., your door opens, and you blast at the intruder just to turn the lights on, and you see that it's a wandering dementia granny who walked out of her house. She got lost, has no idea where she is. Now she's bleeding out in your living room. Good luck defending that in court, even if you're technically in the right. Just something to think about. But learning how to defend yourself is just as important as financial investments. With all that, if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment. I'll be glad to make another self-defense video. With that out of the way, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you in the next one.